Man, what is up and welcome to the latest edition of the Bruin Bible. We got some pretty damn big news and a pretty big guest to come with it. My main man, Kris Johnson, going to be joining us to talk in hoops. UCLA basketball is back, and on the Bruin Bible, we're going to be recapping it all season long, so get your popcorn ready. We're going to have a lot of fun. First and foremost, though, my main man, the 1995 national champion at that, Mr. Kris Johnson in the building. KJ, how are we feeling? It's the best time of the year. Basketball is here. The Bruins are in the top 12 in the preseason poll. There's a lot going on here, and I'm loving all of it, my man.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I mean, especially on the heels of football. I mean, it just makes basketball season that much better. The excitement around UCLA athletics, right? Football does good, and then you go into basketball season, you're on a high, you want to support. I'm excited. I think the number 12 ranking is I was a little surprised by that. I was like, because typically UCLA doesn't get that type of national love with so many questions, when you have so many questions on its roster, meaning when I say so many, I'm talking specifically about the 5 spot, right? So you lose to Mara. He ends up going to Michigan. The details of that well documented. It's very unfortunate. Mara is one of the beloved big men in the history of UCLA basketball. For me, at least, I love Adai like none other. But you got to reload. You got to, replace and bring in some more reinforcements. Mick Cronin brought in Xavier Booker from Michigan State, Stephen Jamerson II from the University of San Diego, and Anthony Peoples Jr. Now, with those three, it's a question of, is it a, kind of like the Bulls, the Chicago '96 Bulls, when you had sort of that three-headed center monster where everybody sort of played a role, had a value, did their thing. So that's my question. Top 12, okay, cool, whatever. I'm more concerned about how these guys build, how they get better, how the team gels, how Donovan Dent, how Mick, the loosening of the reins on the offense and giving Donovan Dent the keys. I'm interested in seeing how that kind of morphs over the course of the season.
Speaking of Donovan Dent, man, I think we should start with him. The fan base is excited, and rightfully so. This kid was the only returning player coming into this year that's top 15 in scoring and assists from last year. Transfer from New Mexico. Mick Cronin, he's very, tepid when it comes to praising players. He couldn't hide his excitement. He goes, when he gets out in the open floor, this kid's unstoppable. This is what he's talking about with Donovan Dent, which, gets me and, the UCLA fan base very, very excited. What have you seen from his game, Kris, that you think will immediately translate to Pauley Pavilion and the UCLA fans?
Well, he's a professional level, kind of professional skilled guard. And I think UCLA fans have an appreciation for really good point guards. UCLA, for me, is point guard we've had some really serious ballers come out of UCLA, from Baron Davis to Pooh Richardson to Lonzo Ball. I mean, and the list goes on and on. Forgive me to the fellas that I all left out, but Drew Holiday, Darren Collison, Russell Westbrook. What do you want? Golly.
Yeah, man. Keep going.
So the Bruin faithful have an appreciation for this type of floor general. I think it's Donovan Dent's ability to break people down that fills the biggest sort of deficit or need that the UCLA offense desperately could use last year. If you remember last year, Dylan Andrews, God bless his soul, good luck at Boise State. He, was not the answer. Now you got a guy that's Mountain West Player of the Year, averaged 20 points, like you said, all the stats. But more importantly, this is a guy who is an offensive engine within himself, meaning he's now going to simplify coaching for Mick Cronin. He's going to be able to come down, run pick and roll, and out of pick and roll, you're going to have 10 options, right? Be able to hit the roller. He's going to be able to hit guys because of his gravity. He's going to be able to hit open shooters, and that's where you talk about Bilodeau and Daly, and Sky Clark, Trent Perry. All these guys who are very quality, capable shooters. I think that's the most exciting part about the roster is the guys that are coming back as well.
Yeah,
we're returning well over 50% of our scoring and production from last season. And there's a stat out there where, they say of all the national championship teams in the last 30 or so years, that 54 or 55% or more returning score, they all had that in common, as far as really good teams that are able to, that grew after 1 year, went through the fire, of the Big Ten, understands, the rhythm, the ebbs and the flows of that conference schedule. So now you're bringing back that nucleus, you're putting some pieces around it. And Xavier Booker's a Big Ten guy, so he understands that as well. Now, and then you bring in Jamar Brown, the transfer from University of Missouri, Kansas City, and then with the guys that are already there that redshirted last year, Brandon Williams, Eric Freeney. I mean, you're talking about one of the deepest teams, I think, in college basketball in terms of quality players at different positions, right? If you go down the list, forwards, guards, center, I mean, you got 2-3 guys. And to me, the real question here, and, I've listened a lot to Mick Cronin talk over the summer just about how his coaching approach is going to be. And a lot of the question is Mick going to, not micromanage? Or the guy's going to play a fast-paced game? We're going to get up and down? Or, it's going to be one of those type of games? I say yes. I mean, yes. And I know it's not so much of an obvious answer, but yes, because he has a guy that he trusts. When you have a point guard in college basketball that you trust, it changes. It's like a really good quarterback. It's like Nico, right? Now Nico's making plays with his legs. He's making plays with his arms, and he's improvising. So this is something I was thinking about. Last year we didn't have a guard that could basically. Mick Cronin gives him a play to run. The guard had such a command. We didn't have a guard that had such a command of how everybody was doing, the feel of the game, understanding rhythm, flow, to where he couldn't do an audible and say, "Coach, we're going to run this because this he's doing his thing. So we're going to go to him." That's a high level of trust to have. You heard it. You talked about it. You guys talked about it. I think I saw it somewhere, but that broken play where against Penn State, where Nico did that scramble. I guess the Jerry couldn't push the button stopped working, and Nico was like, "Shoot, I'm calling it, whatever, I'm out of here," But it's stuff like that. You need a guy that's capable of doing that in college basketball, especially on the college level. I will say so. The college basketball point guard, the college football quarterback. Those two positions. If you got a guy that's cerebral, accomplished, that understands how to make the necessary reads. I mean, your team now could accomplish some special things. I'm being long-winded, but to answer your question, yes, I'm tremendously excited about this guy, Donovan Dent, because I know that he's going to elevate every single player on this roster, and they're going to play above, at that level or above, what they're capable of.
Yeah, man, they call it a floor general for a reason, right? So we need that Darren Collison. We need that Tiger Campbell to come through for the Bruins this year. Dent has the fast track to that. You mentioned it, man. We have 3 of our top 4 scorers coming back from last season. I want to start with the top 2, Bilodeau and our guy Eric Daly Jr. coming back. I just think both these guys are high-level players, and they flashed a lot last year. Like, when I think of Bilodeau, I go immediately to that Illinois game. He was 7 of 12 from long distance, 25 points. Guy was out of control, and he's doing that at 6'9". So when you have that size and shooting, it adds spacing to the entire floor. Can you imagine what Dent can do with that spacing, driving to the basket, making plays when you can spread it out like that? And then our guy Daly, I think this guy's a two-way natural. He shot about 38% from long distance last year. I think he's got a chance to be maybe the best defender on the team coming into this year. Talk to me about these two guys, because I think with Dent, you kind of have a 3-headed monster between these 3 players on the roster.
Yeah, you do. You do for sure. I mean, I think the big thing about the guys you're talking about, we'll start with Tyler Bilodeau. Bilodeau's ability last year, he didn't show it all because he was dealing with a nagging injury all season long. I think he had something wrong in his lower extremities or something, but he didn't have that same pop, that same explosion that he had the year before at Oregon State. I watched a lot of tape on him. Bilodeau is like a big 6'9" mover. And he had to play the center position last year. So he was playing out of position for a majority of the season. And what that does to the squad, when you're undersized, you kind of have to play a scrappy, sort of undersized type game. Daly has lingering injuries, nagging stuff too last year. So my point is both these dudes are healthy this year, except Daly, obviously, he's going to be out tomorrow for the scrimmage. But for the most part, they've been healthy for the majority of the summer. Both have trimmed down their body fat. They lost a little bit of weight. They both have been living in the lab since the season ended. And like to your point, now they have a guy that understands how to get them off. So Donovan Dent's gonna make the game easier for Daly and Bilodeau. Last year might have been a little difficult, except the Illinois game you're talking about. Guys were fine. Sky was diamond Bilodeau a lot that game, pitching back for those long threes, the deep threes he was knocking down. I remember that game very, very, very vividly. But you got a guy that can do that now every time. Like, this is his lifestyle, Donovan Dent. This is what he does. Reading, coming off screen and rolls. Hitting the guy on the opposite with a swing pass, or knowing where Bilodeau is. I mean, this guy is a professional dimer. Is what I saw on the internet today. They called him a dimer. Andy Katz called him, his top dimers. This guy's a professional dimer.
Yes,
So that part of it means for me that, but the other interesting thing is going to be see how Daly Jr. adjusts to being this full-time small forward for the Bruins. Daly Jr. played a lot of power forward during his college career and center at Oklahoma State. As someone who did the same thing during his career at UCLA, I started off as a center, made all honorable mention all conference as a power forward, honorable mention all conference as a shooting guard. So I've done it all. I've made the transition. Thank you. I made the transition from both. I made the transition from both on the major college level, so I understand kind of the unique nuances associated with making that transition. And from what I saw this summer in the men's gym run, Daly definitely was working on the right stuff. Having the ball in his hand, trying to get downhill, breaking guys down off the bounce. I think the big question is going to be defensively. He's going to be able to move his feet laterally, slide, keep up without fouling. Deal, but I'll just see on a full-time basis. It's different when you're playing the four. It's different when you're playing the power forward and you're switching on guys sometimes for not necessarily the majority of the game, but when you're a full-time three, and you got to guard a guy for 40 minutes, it takes a different toll on your body physically. So I'm just curious to see how that's going to pan out.
Yeah, the size element's huge. When you can move Bilodeau to that four position. Lakers fans, tell me if you've heard this before with a guy named Anthony Davis. That guy was clamoring to play the four for most of his time with the Lakers, man. So if Bilodeau can go to that four spot, we may see the best version of him, as well as Daly maybe moving to a small forward position with that size. Yeah. I got two-part question for you before we talk into the preseason rankings and maybe some Rico Hines runs if we got enough time for it, man. But for the guys coming in, we have a kid in Trent Perry and Xavier Booker. Perry was on the roster last year. Booker transferring in from Michigan State. Booker, former All-American. This guy has a lot of talent. He claims he was playing out of position at Michigan State. He's now a true rim runner in Westwood, according to what we've heard from Ben Bolch at the LA Times and what we've heard in the preseason reports. What have you seen so far from Xavier Booker that gives you confidence he can maybe regain that status as one of the nation's best, maybe in the middle? And then with Trent Perry, kind of a two-part question, do you think he has enough juice to kind of maybe weasel his way into the starting lineup and give himself that opportunity that so many Bruins fans were high on him last year as an All-American in his own right?
Well, with Xavier Booker, I'm just going to base it off of, kind of how Mick Cronin has talked about him throughout the entire summer. And it's been in the context of, he's a work in progress. He loves to work. He's a great learner. He's trying, he's working. What I read from that is that he might not necessarily be ready right now to be a full-time five. Now, a full-time five on the major college level, it's a lot of nuances associated with not just necessarily rim protection, but controlling the paint, right? There's a difference. There's a rim protection guy that can get you vertically and cause problems, change shots. And then there's guys that control the paint with strength and verticality. Stephen Jamerson right now probably is better suited for that role for UCLA, in my opinion. Mick Cronin has been very high on Stephen Jamerson. He's talked about his ability to rebound, two hands in traffic, second jumps, things like that. Really detailed nuances in how he describes Jamerson. So it lets me know that, he's getting off on this stuff. He's watching Jamerson in practice like, oh man, you see that, coach? He's one of those type of dudes because he's talking about it. Mick is going to talk about what he likes, so he really likes Jamerson. And when I'm looking at Jamerson on tape from last year, and I watch Xavier Booker, and I do a lot of breakdown stuff on my Substack. It's called Those Four Letters. I broke down just how they screen. I looked at about 20 Jamerson plays, 20 Booker plays, screening, right? I'm looking at the screening. Look, on the college level, man, you're going to be playing with a high-level point guard. We need a guy, a 5, that's going to nail people with screens, not guys that are sliding by. Booker's sort of a slide-by guy. He played the 4. He's a stretch guy. I think Booker never played on the perimeter. I mean, never played on the inside until Michigan State. I think he was a 3. I think he was like on the perimeter all throughout high school. That's a tough transition for a guy that's used to catching and shooting. The strength aspect is what I'm talking about. And so for me, now let's talk about the good about Xavier Booker.
Yeah.
Everything you mentioned, right? McDonald's All-American, 6'11", 240, 7'4" wingspan, runs like a gazelle, timing out of this world. Can arguably have stretches where he blocks 3 shots and hits 3 threes. He's one of those dudes. He's going to get you 3 blocks and then hit you 3 threes within a 2-minute stretch. And you're just like, Dick Vitale was on ESPN. He's a PTPer, baby.
Yes, sir.
Just going crazy. But he's definitely one of those guys. But you got to unlock that. You got to unlock it, right? You got to unlock it. You got to empower him. You got to make him comfortable. I think he's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder. He understands what's at stake. Last year with Izzo, Michigan State didn't go his way. The guys that are ballyhooed and achieve a high level ranking and that reach that elite status understand what's at stake because they're ahead of the game. But then when other guys catch up to you, you have a badge. So you're ahead of the game. You're running your race in the races to the NBA draft. So it's who has you on their mocks. Xavier Booker has been mocked. Okay, he's been mocked for a number of years. He was on a. I did some stuff on him when I first started doing this Substack stuff. I used him as an example. I was comparing Kaman Malawash, the big kid from Duke, and some other guys, but I used him, and he was at Michigan. This is like Michigan before Michigan State. I used him as sort of this guy that's like, this really good forward, up and coming, that's going to be in a few years, a top 15 pick. He looked like that early on just from his measurables and stuff like that. So if Mick Cronin can get him back to that status, we're going to be extremely dangerous because now he has some versatility. Now you have, you can pick your poison. Now you can throw in Booker for this style of play, right? The stretch ability. So now if you got Booker in there with Bilodeau, Daly, Sky Clark, I mean, there's not going to be, and Donovan Dent, there's not going to be a lot of opportunity for teams to collapse on folks. So meaning the center that's guarding Booker, if Booker's standing at the 3, he's going to have to guard him. He can't just, leave him. Because Booker has earned that respect as a shooter. The percentages don't blow you away, but he can shoot that thing from 3 if you leave him open. He's one of those dudes. Yeah. And so all that to be said, man, and not to mention, I mean, I'll stay on these two. Trent Perry, right? Sure, this is a guy, 6'4", 210, stud, just a straight up stud. What a very just well-rounded guard. One of those guys that could play either position as far as the backcourt position, point guard or shooting guard, plays under control. Really worked on his jumper this offseason, really has a smooth stroke, great balance. My thing with Trent would be just this opportunity. I mean, I have no question in my mind if Trent Perry gets the minutes and is giving meaningful minutes and meaningful opportunities. And you saw it last year, game against Indiana out there at Assembly Hall. He came in and, 5-7 points and, a great big and one. He did some flashes of some game changing, like nobody can hold him on the court type of talent. And you got a dude like that now, can he start? It'll be interesting. I don't know. I think Mick likes the Sky Clark archetype of guard. He likes that shorter, kind of get under you kind of dude. And Sky Clark has earned it for the time being, I'd say. Yeah. Sky has earned it. Sky was super solid last year. I know, he went through his ups and downs as far as the shooting was concerned, but he finished the year extremely strong. He's one of our, if not our best, he's the second best perimeter defender on the team, if not the best. And so it's going to be hard to unseat Sky from that, but Trent Perry is going to play a huge part in this rotation and what we do. I mean, when you just got options. Now you can do a 3-headed monster. Now you can go, if you want, Dent, Clark, Perry. And what that gives you is 3 dynamic guards that can all shoot and break guys down off the dribble and all know how to play off each other. And that's the thing that we don't give Sky Clark enough credit for, his ability to play on ball, off ball. and Donovan did. They've been doing it a lot this summer. I mean, you listen to the guys talk. They both have been sharing some point guard duties, and then when Sky has it, Donovan's running the two, so he's sliding off the ball, and that just opens up another level of just dynamic play and another window that he gets to attack constantly and not have to be in the middle with the ball in the center of attention. I mean, think about that. I mean, so yes, Trent Perry, I think at some point in this season, and we're going to see tomorrow who starts because Daly Jr. is out. So he may start tomorrow, and that's going to tell me a lot about how he's been playing in practice. But you never know. Coach might go with Jamar Brown. The transfer from University of Missouri, Kansas City, he loves Jamar. Jamar is actually a really rugged, just athletic, I won't say athletic, but just has a great nose for the ball, right? He's a guy that had 17 rebounds against Creighton last year at University of Missouri. Yeah, he had 20 points against Iowa State. I mean, he played 2 ranked teams, had some huge numbers. Really good shooter, seasoned guy. So what I think we'll see early, as far as the guys that are going to get the shot in the rotation, I think it's going to be the seasoned guys, the older guys. I think Mick has been waiting for the moment that he can play a bunch of old dudes because that's what he likes, and I think he's going to give these guys a go.
He loves the older dudes, man, and this is like the most well-rounded roster we've had in a while for UCLA basketball. So I'm just ecstatic. I know Jamal is as well, who couldn't be here, but we were predicted to finish third in the preseason polls of the Big Ten behind your Michigans and your Purdue's. Where do you see the ceiling of this team truly being? I think this could be a Final Four team and maybe further if they reach their true potential. I'm really buying in on Mick's bunch this year and the Dents and the Bilodeaus and the Dailies. But what in your world is the ceiling for this UCLA basketball team? Because I think, the whole thing might be worth in play right now if they keep it up and, can tap into that potential.
Yeah, I have the feeling of wait and see. I'm not blown away. I still need to see these guys against real live breathing people, talent. You know what I mean? That are trying to take their heads off. So I got to see how they respond to adversity. I got to see what the chemistry is like with Dent. Like I talk about it, right? Because in my mind, I'm creating these scenarios to where, hey, this has got to work. It's got to work on paper, but then they still got to play the game and they still got to communicate and guys still got to be on the same page and they got to, do the work and stuff like that. So, but I'm not going to cop out on an answer either. I think the ceiling for this team, contingent upon the center position being solidified, meaning quality contributions from all 3 guys if necessary, but at least 2 of the 3, right? Quality minutes, right? 20 and 20. We're getting quality time from Booker. Quality. I think the ceiling is Final Four team. When you have this quality of guard, you got a depth. So you got Freeney coming off too. Eric Freeney, the big 6'4", 6'5" guard, red shirt from I think he went to Corona Centennial as well. You got Freeney, you got like 5, 6 guards that are real solid, college with size, can move, can guard, will be able to switch. So foul trouble is not going to be that big of an issue because of your depth. So now you're going to be able to play aggressive style defensively from the guard slot. Now that the big slot is where I get a little concerned. But then again, I think about it. With Bilodeau at the center and Daly at the 4, we were a top 4 team in the Big Ten last year.
Yeah, man, tied for 4th at the end of the day. So a lot of potential there, man. And it's just exciting. I think the excitement is back with UCLA basketball, which this whole fan base just wants to begin with. People are going to be out packing poly. I'm sure I'll see you at that Intuit Dome game against Arizona earlier in the year. It's going to be a lot of fun. I got to ask you one more thing. And before we get out of here, guys, you make sure to subscribe to my man KJ's Substack. He mentioned earlier, get on that, get in it. This guy has great analysis when it comes to basketball. I read it whenever I can. This guy's one of the best, especially when it comes to your blue and gold. You got to talk to me about some Rico Hines runs, man. These are the stories of legends. I know you tweeted out a picture earlier this year, and you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It was Kobe at the Rico Hines runs in there. Were you guarding him in that picture, or was that somebody else?
So that was Toby Bailey actually guarding him, my teammate. But those runs at the men's gym, who Rico later took over and branded as his own, they went on since the 70s. So my dad, Marcus,
Yeah.
he had a big hand in kind of starting that. It kind of came out of just the guys at UCLA having pickup games, and it kind of got consistent. But when it reached its heights, I mean, my dad tells me stories about the 70s and 80s where you had Wilt Chamberlain in the building. Wilt playing. Like Wilt was
My
50 years
gosh.
old. Wilt was 50 years old. My dad said he was playing pro beach volleyball at the time
Yeah.
at 50. And to get in shape for that, he come through to the run, man, at 50. And my dad said he was still Wilt and dominating. I mean, I played against everybody from Magic Johnson to a 17-year-old Kobe Bryant in that
Yeah.
gym, to Kevin Garnett, to I dunked on Grant Hill in that gym.
No
Um,
way. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, this is real talk.
Yeah.
Penny Hardaway, Magic. The list goes on and on. Nick Van Exel, so all the Lakers. So just think about it. All the Lakers would come, all the Clippers would come, then all the dudes that had off-season homes in LA would come through to kind of stay in shape. The iteration of the runs now completely out of this world, because obviously the social media, and then Rico's relationships with the guys as an assistant coach, long time. You can call Rico a long time, a veteran NBA assistant coach. I think he's in year 20 or 15, 17, something sick. You build a lot of relationships, you build rapport with different generations of dudes, and then when you have a gym and you organize it like Rico has, and you run it with the quality, the precision, they got clocks, and the fouls are regulated so it doesn't get too wild and stuff like that. I mean, it turns into what it is today. I'll tell you this: a couple years ago, LeBron. I mean, I feel like this was
Yeah.
the height. This was the height of the Rico Hines runs. Rico Hines runs. LeBron, Paul. I mean, young Paul. I'm not young, but like a really good
PG.
Oklahoma
Yeah. Yeah.
City Paul George. Please, he's 360 and out there.
Yeah.
All types of dudes. But then playing against these guys, so you had like sort of those pros, but then you had the full Toronto Raptors team having
Oh.
Nick Nurse, they brought the training camp. They had training camp at the Rico. Yeah.
Nurse showed up with the whole squad out there. You kidding me?
Dude, they
Yeah.
had 4 teams. He had Toronto, he had Houston. No, I'm telling you, it was like
That's wild, bro.
I
Yeah.
was like, this is crazy. Like, he had literally 4 teams in there, but that's just that's just to recruits and anybody watching this, ever thinking, if they're ever on the fence about UCLA, I'll tell them that coming to UCLA to get in those runs is worth anything you'll ever do at any other school, because you're learning so much. It's like getting a doctorate level education for free on the strength. You might get a mentor that might end up being Paul George or whoever else, LeBron. You never know. He might, hey man, call me. That's the part. Hey man, give me a call, man. Here's my number. Hey boy, you got a nice game, man. No, that's the type of stuff that happens out that stuff. So you have to understand. And everybody's not gonna talk about it. Who go, yeah, but LeBron gave me his number. But like we have relationships with these dudes out of these
Yeah.
runs, and it adds a lot to you as a player and definitely as a person.
Man, what a finish to this episode. Guys, please subscribe to my man's, Substack. He's doing great things. I would love to go to a Rico Hines run at some point. We can maybe make that happen.
Let's do it.
My main man KJ in the building. We hope to have you on throughout the season. UCLA basketball is here, ladies and gentlemen. The wait is over. Bruins are here. We'll be talking to you guys all season long. You guys have a good one. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back very, very soon. Take it easy. Fours up.